games a lot. I don't play that many video games, although there's a few video games like Skyrim that I love playing. Most of my video game playing consists of little flash games on the internet.
There you go.
Because they're free and they're quick, and if I stop in the middle of playing it, life goes on.
During your lunch hour at work.
Well, I'm not saying that, but
it's lunch hour. That's my time.
I do it during anyway.
He does it during class.
No. But anyway, one of my favorite of those little flash games is Tower Defense.
Yep.
Tower Defense games I don't know what it is about them. I just get a kick out of watching guys troop into my place and I shoot them down.
And get decimated.
And people have asked, where is a board game about Tower Defense? Well, here's the first.
Here you go.
And I doubt it will be the last.
Nope.
But it's the first. This game incorporates Tower Defense and also incorporates the ultimate answer to what you do when there's one piece of cake left and two kids want to eat it. One cuts it in half and the other gets to choose which piece they want. There's no arguing that way. And that's what this game has, the I divide, you choose methodology.
Yeah.
So let's look at it and then we'll tell you if it's good or not. So here's the board, and you can see here's the scoring track that players will have, and I really like the artwork on this whole thing, by the way. And down here is where the players are playing, and we're going to concentrate just on one section. This is each player is going to have their own section, and enemies are going to be marching in here, coming from the mountain pass, and they're going to march down this column till they get to this row where the keep is, and then they'll march towards your keep. Here's your keep. And players will be building different buildings in this area, but how do they do that? And this game has a very simple mechanic that you might have seen used before. At the beginning of each round, players are going to reach into a bag and pull out some cubes. Okay, there's 6 different cubes, and let's say it's a 3-player game, we pull 6 cubes, and lo and behold, we got all 6 kinds. The good ones are knights, archers, and trebuchets. These are good guys. And then we got orcs, dragons, and battering rams. These are bad guys. A player will also draw 4 buildings. So here's 4 different types of buildings. And these buildings will have different benefits, but you can see each building is built in a different area. Like this one is built down here. The dungeon is built in the dungeon section. A stable is built in one of these green ones. And this moat and ferry is built on one of these sections here. And so a player has some of these buildings that they've drawn. So in a 3-player game, they would draw 4 of them. And then you'll draw some cards. And again, in a 3-player game, you draw 5 cards. Now, the player who goes first each turn, that player is going to take these and split them into 3 groups. In a 3-player game, if it was 2 players, it'd be 2 groups. So let's say I'm going to say, oh man, that's a good card. This is a good card. I'm going to put those together. These are 2 cards. This is a bad card, so I'm going to put this over here. But the bad card comes with 2 buildings and 2 of the good troops. These 2 good cards come with all 3 enemy troops. But they get the buildings. This is not a very good pile, but it's not a bad pile either. So I've split it into 3 different groups. And then the other 2 players are each going to choose a group, and the guy who split them gets the last group. You will immediately take any enemies that you've gotten and stick them there, and you'll take any good guys that you've gotten and you'll stick them in your keep. Then after players are split up, they're going to take turns doing actions. And actions are usually consist of building buildings like this here in the different areas, or moving your troops. And each troop has different movement. Players have a card that says exactly how troops move on the board. After everyone is done taking their actions, and these cards can be played. Some of the cards are played at specific times. Then the bad guys will move. Like I said, they move in a very specific way. However, what you can do is, like, for example, this moat will shuttle off, for example, the battering ram. When it hits that, the battering ram is going to go 1 space this direction. Then he'll keep coming down. However, if you can set up other things, if I put another moat here and then another moat here, this battering ram is going to eventually be forced off the cliff. And if you force someone off a cliff, that's worth 4 points. And also, you'll notice that there's points on the other side here. If you move your good guys into spots where there's bad guys, they're going to fight. And there's a chart on who kills what. For example, a knight destroys a battering ram. A knight takes out an orc, but he's destroyed too. dragons kill knights. And there's different, there's a different grid to show what each of the guys does to each other. So you can take out the bad guys in different ways. Otherwise, if the bad guys do make it through your defenses and march to your keep, you will lose points. Now, another way, so there's three major ways to get points. One is by destroying the good guys. The farther you destroy them to the mountain pass, the more points you get. Shoving them off the cliff is even better. That's another way. So those are two main ways to get points. Another way is to get some armies of your own, some armies of good, and get them out into the field. And when you come out here, you can attack. You pick one of these spots, and you see what's on it. This is, for example, an orc outpost. You need 4 knights and 2 trebuchets to take this sucker out. Now, fortunately, there are cards that will let you increase the power of your abilities. For example, a blacksmith will increase the power of your knights. So if you have a blacksmith, you only need 2 knights to take this out because each knight counts as a double. And so you can upgrade your knights and abilities. And when you take this orc outpost out, you get 14 points. And there's different ones out here, although there are also areas that are just a big field and nothing. So that's the way the game progresses. Now what's really nice is there's a very strong turn order, and you follow that, and it will tell you exactly when many cards are played. Like this Smite card is played on a very specific time on the turn order chart. And players are going to constantly be trying to pick between the 3 different strategies of going out and fighting enemies and destroying them, shuttling enemies off the mountain, or going out and fighting troops here to get points. As soon as one player gets 30 points, then the game is over. Well, you finish that round out, and the player with the most points is the winner of this game. Alright, well, it's interesting because the game doesn't, as far as I can tell, it doesn't say, like, tower defense, but when I was explaining it to Sam, he instantly said, this is a tower defense game.
Yep, exactly.
And it is kind of.
Half of it is.
Yeah, because you don't have to sit there and do the tower defense thing. You could just go out and fight.
Exactly.
And I like, if there's one really strong point to the game, that is it right there. It's the fact that the different strategies seem to be very well balanced.
Yeah, they are.
Going out and fighting, get a lot of points for that, but it's a ton of work to get it together. Killing the monsters is the easiest thing to do, but you lose. It's few points. Pushing them off the side of the mountains is middle of the ground, but it takes a lot of setting up to get that done.
Right.
The disadvantage I would have to the game, I think, is that the divide part. I love it. I love taking all those things and dividing them up. However, that takes up a good chunk of time because you really want to make sure you divide it well. And so I want to make it, okay, if I'm giving him these bad things, I'm going to give him these good things. And you really are trying to set it up so that your opponent chooses the pile
that you want them
that you want them to choose.
Yeah.
But you don't want to help them out too much. So to me, that's an interesting concept. But it can drag the game down. The game box says 120 minutes. And I think that if somehow you could speed that up, the game would be 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's a good... I think we spent more time on that than anything else.
I wonder if random piles would work.
No, I don't know. But see, I like the idea of splitting and choosing. The buildings are neat. I like the fact that there's different kinds of buildings and they do different things. And and then the movement of the people and the grid is neat. Although, I will say that the choosing and dividing is much more interesting than the actual playing. You get actions on your turn and you're like, I put out a building. Your turn.
Once you get your cards and once you get your buildings, it's pretty much you just go through the motion. It's almost like you don't have to take turns doing it. I don't know how placing one building before another would make a difference unless you're wanting to place them both in the same spot. You know what I'm saying? How? Yeah,
I guess. I mean,
once you have your stuff, you can just do it. I don't know why you would need to take turns back and forth. Now, with a 2-player game, I don't know why it would happen, why it would make a difference, but maybe with 3 or 4 players, it would make a difference.
The buildings, the symbols on the buildings, at first I thought, oh great, all these symbols, but it's not that difficult, and the player aid is really handy.
Yeah.
It has 3D rendering artwork on the board, and I thought the board just looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Looking down and looking at each of the person's castles, and it just has a good look to it. I mean, I wish I could have little plastic dragons instead of red cubes, but I can't think of any functional way to pull them out of the bag randomly then.
No, there wouldn't.
You have to use cubes in this regard, unless you pulled cubes out and replaced them.
Yeah.
So the cubes is a bit abstract looking, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a way around it. But I mean, it seems like the board would look kind of crowded, and it didn't. It was very cut and dry what was what and where everything was and how everything was going to work out. So not a problem there at all.
I like it. I think it's a good game. I wish it could be sped up. That's my only thing.
Yeah.
I just wish it kind of played a little faster, because there will be times where I'm just sitting there waiting for the other person to divide. And watching him divide is kind of interesting, but there's not much else I can do. I can't sit there and think about what else I'm going to do my turn, because I really need to know what I'm getting.
Right.
But other than that, it's a good, solid game. It's not as fantasy themed as you might think. You probably could have put medieval theme on us, whatever. But
actually, it does have a very medieval-ish theme to it. The only fantasy aspect of it are the ogres and the dragons. But I mean,
ogres could have been whatever, big bad monsters.
Right. So I don't think that the theme really adds to it. It doesn't take away from it either. So it's very cool. I really enjoyed it. The Loyalty, Invasion, and King's Envoy cards and all those little special cards, I wish there could have been a little bit more diversity with those as far as quantity is concerned.
Yeah, you're going to have to buy a deck card protectors, because you go through this deck, I don't know, what, 20 times in one game?
Yeah,
you're going through a lot.
Really fast. I wish that deck was a little bit thicker. Maybe just have multiple copies of those same cards or something like that, but that's kind of just a nitpick. The iconography, like Tom was saying, I'm not a fan of iconography, and this game, it's totally cool. Not difficult at all. So, thumbs up there.
I like it. Wouldn't want to play it all the time, but it is interesting, and it certainly is innovative, I think. The You Choose, I Pick You Choose mechanic has been there before, but this whole tower defense thing is kind of new, at least the way that they put it into this game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this 1.4 Dragon Scales Up.
Dragon Scales Up.
Yeah. Is that what you were going to say? Did I take it?
No.
Yes.
No.
You're still thinking?
Yes.
Well, why he's thinking?
I'm going to give it 1.5 Orc Walls Up. Orc Walls.
Orc Walls?
Yeah, Orc Walls.
Okay. Well,
they're
fantastic.
Walls built by orcs. There's 1.5 of them.
I can see this game is prone for expansions too. You could add more buildings and more cards and such. But for now, I think it's a pretty solid game. Came out in Kickstarter a bit ago. Is now being published, so you can hunt it down. It certainly is going to appeal to some people looking for a specific type of game, tower defense, and with kind of like a puzzly aspect, because you're sitting there saying, okay, these guys are marching in, how am I going to maneuver them to where I want them to go? And if that sounds interesting, this is certainly going to be up your alley.
Yeah, and even if that doesn't hit your stride, you also have the Going Out and Conquer.
Oh, that's true.
You can do that. I mean, both of those are viable strategies. I think it would be kind of difficult to pull both of them off, but either one is
effectively.
Effectively. Either one is fun in its own right. So I think it's like Tom said, it's a solid game, and I think it's one that people should turn an eye to.
Woo!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games of